Hello everybody and welcome. Today we are going to look at one of the most important topic, which is what is EC2 user data and what is EC2 metadata. So in today's lecture, we are going to cover EC2 user data, EC2 metadata, and then we are going to do hands-on to demonstrate what is how to configure your EC2 user data and metadata. This is one of the most important question for your interview as well as for your solution architects exam. So let's see what is EC2 user data. Consider a scenario where you want to configure your EC2 machine. That means whenever it launches for the first time, you want to execute a set of commands for the first time. In that case, you can use EC2 user data. For example, consider a scenario where you have an EC2 machine, and when it gets launched, you want to install a web server on that EC2 machine. At that stage, you can use EC2 user data. For our demonstration purpose, to keep it simple, I am going to create a directory when your EC2 instance gets launched. So we are going to create job ready training directory under home and EC2 user. Just to keep some facts in mind, when it comes to EC2 user data, its size cannot be more than 16 KB. This is one of the exam questions which frequently gets asked. And on Windows instances, you can run Windows related commands, that is your PowerShell commands. So let's see what is EC2 metadata. EC2 metadata is some useful information about your EC2 instance. That means whenever you launch your EC2 instance, it gets its public IP address, it gets its private IP address. So that is the metadata about your EC2 instance. So that is some useful information about your EC2 instance. Let's see, when you launch the instance, how to retrieve your user data and how to retrieve your metadata. There is one special IP address, which is 169.254, 169.254. You don't have to remember this for your exam, but while retrieving your user data or metadata, this is useful. The thing to keep in mind is you can hit this URL only from the instance console. You cannot hit it from your browser or it is not public. You have to log into your EC2 instance and then you can hit this URL. So let's see at the end to retrieve the user data, the key is user-data. And to retrieve your metadata, it is a meta-data. So let's go into the console to do hands-on. So this is our AWS homepage. I'm going to search for EC2. Let's go and open EC2. So here we have EC2 console. I'm going to launch an instance. Let's go to instances. So here I am at the instances. I'm going to launch the instance, launch instances. I'm going to select Amazon Linux 2 AMI, which is pretty standard. That's what we are going to select in our upcoming tutorials as well. Let's select it. I'm going to use T2 Micro. It is eligible for your free tier. That means you won't be charged for 750 hours monthly. If you are eligible for the free tier, let's try to configure instance details. I'm going to scroll down. And if you see at the bottom, there is something called as user data. In this user data, you can execute any commands you want to run when your instance starts for the first time. Just to keep in mind, this runs only once and that also at the first time. So if you stop and restart your machine, these commands are not going to be executed again. So this gets executed only for the first time. Let me just get hold of the commands for you. So I got the command. I'm going to paste it. What this command do? It makes a directory known as jobreadytrainings under your home/EC2 user directory. It's pretty simple and straightforward. We are going to use mkdir command to make a directory when our instance starts. One more important thing, the first line is important where you are adding some information, bin/bash. This is very useful information. And if you don't add, your commands might give some problems. So that's about user data. We have added, I'll go to add storage, which is next. I don't want to add any tags at the moment because we are demonstrating user data related functionality. Let's go to security groups. I'm going to use the default security group, which is launch wizard1, and let's review and launch the instance. And I acknowledge that I have all the key pair. I'm going to launch the instance. The instance are getting launched. It takes a while after you start your instance. It takes a while. First, it goes to your pending states. And after the pending state, it comes to your running state after a few seconds. So let's wait for our instance to get into running state. Yeah, my instance got into running state. That means I am ready to connect to my instance. So in the previous video, we saw how to connect to our instances. And if you haven't seen that, I recommend you just go to the previous video and see how to connect it from the SSH. Let's go to connect. There are various ways to connect to your EC2 instance, but for now, we are going to use the most simple way, which is EC2 Instance Connect. I'll just go ahead and connect to this EC2 instance, which I just launched. So here comes the console. I can execute commands and show you how to retrieve your user data and how to retrieve your metadata. So let me clear the console. Yes, so we are on the first line. We have to do curl. Curl is where we are going to hit the URL, which is http://169.254.169.254. And you have to keep in mind that you have to append this URL with the latest. And then finally, you have to write user-data. So this URL will give you the user data that was configured for this instance. So let's go and hit this URL. If you see, whatever user data we added while creating the instance, we got hold of it. So in case you launch your instance and you want to get hold of your user data, you can run or hit this URL. So that's about user data. Let's see how to get the metadata. To get the metadata, you have to do curl http same URL 169.254.169.254, fairly easy to remember. Then we can use latest, and instead of user data, this time we are going to hit meta-data. This will give us all the keys that we can use for future reference to retrieve our metadata. In our case, I'm going to show you what is the public IPv4 address for this instance. So let's go and try to hit the same URL, but this time after the metadata, I'm going to add the key, which is public-IPv4. And when I hit this command, it is going to give us the public IP of this instance. So let's see if it gives us the public IP. Here you can see 13.232.101.168 is the public IP address of this instance. So just to verify, I'll go to the console and verify if it's correct. So here we are at the instances. Okay, and if I go down a bit, your public IP address is 13.232.101.68, which is what we got from our metadata. So here today we demonstrated what is user data, what is metadata, how to retrieve user data, how to retrieve your metadata, and this is very, very useful when it comes to your exam or your interview, and also in the real life. So I think you have enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching the video, and see you in the next video. Thank you.